What I'm concerned about is that there'll be a
For UNHCR, the overall budget was close to $1 billion for all the countries and for inside Syria. We're about half funded, and so you can't do everything that is expected of you when you're $500 million short. And as a consequence, we're seeing that refugees are not getting the protection that they need. They're not getting the assistance that they need, and they've lost confidence. They've lost faith. They've lost almost hope in our ability to provide the necessary protection and assistance. And I dare say that they're looking at the situation in Europe and elsewhere and seeing that as a now viable option, which they never would have done before.
someone in Turkey sort of saying, look, the refugees have got a choice of remaining in it.
This lack of trust, the betrayal of trust that the refugees had in agencies and the international communities is a reason why we're seeing movements back into Syria, and in many cases movements continuing on into Europe and further afield. No one in the world is going to be isolated by this.
It's better than a travel document.
Well, the smartest move would have been for Europe and the Gulf states and everyone else to provide more support to countries like Jordan and Lebanon 2 or 3 years ago when we're asking for it. They sought the cheap option, which was to provide us with peanuts in order to deal with the worst humanitarian situation for decades. And I think all the agencies and the governments themselves did a fantastic job doing the impossible by providing the protection and assistance that they did. But in the end, you can't provide lively support, survival for 4 million refugees on peanuts. So we need to look at seriously what is required to provide the necessary assistance, address the basic needs, allow kids to go to school, allow the sick to go to the health centres, provide shelter and food, so that people are not forced to go back to Syria, where they'll be risking their lives, forced to travel to Europe, where they'll be risking their lives en route, and that they can actually remain in the country of asylum until they can go back to Syria.
It would be acceptable to
You're going to have millions of people who remain in countries of asylum, as well as displaced inside Syria, who will need support. So the more financial support that we provide within the countries of asylum, the less likelihood people will be forced to seek alternative asylum. So it just makes sense for no other reason than it's more cost effective to address the humanitarian needs in countries of asylum such as Jordan and Lebanon than it is to deal with them once they get to Europe.